Today's lesson is on graphing linear inequalities. As usual, if you haven't printed the video guide, go ahead and pause the video, print the video guide, and then come back so you can do the problems with me. Now, graphing linear inequalities. Our first problem, you will notice that this looks very similar to the equations that we graphed. The only difference is our inequality sign. We have a less than or equal to sign. Now, the graphing part is essentially the same. There are two major differences though. And we're going to go ahead and talk about those before we actually graph this. The first major difference is in graphing the line. When we graph an equation, we always just draw a straight line, put arrows at the end, we're finished, okay? With an inequality, it's a little bit different. There are two types of lines that you could have. You can have a solid line, or you can have a dashed line. To determine whether your line should be solid or dashed, you need to look at the inequality sign. Whenever we have a solid line, our inequality sign will have the equal to bar. So the equal to bar tells us to draw a solid line. And when I say solid line, I mean one like this, no breaks, nothing, just like that. That means less than or equal to, so this is the equal to bar right here, or greater than or equal to. Either one of these, you will draw a solid line. A dashed line is when there is no equal to bar. The equal to bar is missing. So for example, that would be the less than symbol or the greater than symbol. You'll notice no equal to bar here. By dashed line, I mean a line that looks like this. See how it has breaks in between? So I call those dashes. So a line with breaks in between, that's when there's no equal to bar, so less than or greater than. A solid line has the equal to bar, so less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. The way I remember this is if there's a solid line under the inequality, your line will be solid. If there's a solid line missing from the inequality, or all you have is the inequality sign, the less than sign or the greater than sign, that's when it's dashed. Okay, so that's how I remember between the two of those. So that's one difference. The second difference is there will be shading. Okay? For the shading, there are two different ways that you will shade. If you have a greater than symbol or a greater than or equal to symbol, and either of these, so it has to be greater than, you will shade above the line, okay? And this will make more sense when we actually do a problem. If you have a less than or a less than or equal to sign, you will shade below the line. And again, this will make more sense when we actually do a problem, okay? So two differences. We have to draw different types of lines, either solid or dashed, and our shading. We'll shade above or below the line depending on what the inequality is, okay? So taking a look at number one, the first part of graphing stays the same. You need to know the slope, you need to know the y-intercept. The slope in this case is -2 over 1. Always make it into a fraction. Give it a +1 at the bottom if it's a whole number. And my y-intercept is a +1. So to graph this, I graph the y-intercept first. To get to +1, I go up 1, put a point. Okay? After that, I use my slope of -2 over 1, which means I go down 2 to the right 1. Down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. We can also do the opposite, +2 over -1. So I would go up 2 to the left 1, up 2 to the left 1. Now I need to draw my line. This is the part where you have to actually pay attention to the inequality sign. My sign is a less than or equal to. If we have the equal to bar, we draw a solid line. So to connect my points, I will just draw a straight solid line all the way through. Okay? Now, last step, we need to shade. I like to draw my person. Remember the person that we would draw on the lines to figure out if it was going uphill or downhill for the slope? I'm going to draw the person on my line. If it's greater than, I will shade above. If it's less than, I will shade below. This is less than. It's eating the numbers, okay? Y is less than, which means I shade below. I think of below like the grass, okay? So if my person is standing here, the grass would be below their feet, right? So that would be the below side of the line. So I shade all of this. Now, the reason why we shade for inequalities is because inequalities have a lot more answers than equations do, okay? Equations have one answer, or linear equations just have a line of answers. Linear inequalities, all of these points are solutions, not just the points on the line. These are solutions as well, because this is a solid line, so all of these are answers. But not just those are answers. Actually, all of these points in this shaded area would make this inequality true. So if I pick the point right here, this point is -2, 0, and I plug that into my inequality, the inequality would come out true. It would work. And if I plugged it in, I would use -2 for x. -2 times -2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. And 0 for y is less than or equal to 5. It does work. That is a true statement. 0 is less than 5. So you'll notice this is true for all of these points. I can pick any point in here and it will work in the inequality. Okay, so that's why we shade for all of the points. For problem number 2, our inequality is y is greater than 7/5 x minus 5. So again, the first part of graphing is exactly the same as equations. So our slope is +7/5. The y-intercept is -5. So graph the y-intercept first. I need to go down 5 and put a point. After that, my slope is +7/5. So I will count up 7 to the right 5 and put a point. I don't have room to do that again. So now I need to connect them. This part, remember, we have to pay attention to the inequality sign. In this case, our inequality is a greater than symbol. There is no equal to bar. No equal to bar means we're drawing a dashed line. So we want breaks in this line. So to connect my 2 points, I'll still use, it's still straight, or as straight as I can make it, but there are breaks in between the line, okay? The reason why we're doing a dashed line is to show that this line is actually not a solution. The points along this line are not answers to the inequality because it's not equal to. The line always represents the equal to parts. So the line is not a solution, but the shaded area will be. So I need to have the line so I know where to shade. So I'm going to draw my person again. There's my person. Okay? This is a greater than symbol. Greater than says to shade above. Now above our person would be like the sky. The sky is above our heads. So when I think of above, I think of the sky. And actually I had a student tell me this little rhyme and I really liked it. So this is something you can remember. If the inequality is eating the y, see how it's eating it? Put like teeth in here. It's eating the y, you shade the sky. I thought that was pretty great. That way you could remember it a little easier. So it's eating the y, so I shade the sky. The sky is above my person's head. So I shade all of this space right here. All of this gets shaded, okay? That means my line, because it is dashed, is not a solution. But all of these points in this shaded area in the sky, those are solutions. So there are still answers for this inequality. It's just not on the line. Okay, for problem number 3, y is greater than or equal to 3/4 x. To graph this, start with the slope. Our slope is 3/4. Our y-intercept, because there's nothing after the slope, Remember, if there's nothing there, the number that represents nothing is 0. So our y-intercept is 0, which means our first point goes at the very center at 0. From there, I use my positive 3/4, so that means I go up 3 to the right 4 and put my point. And I don't have room to do it again, so I'll do the opposite. Opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. Opposite of positive 4 is negative 4. So that means I need to go down 3 to the left 4. So down 3 to the left 4 and put a point. Once we've plotted our points, we need to decide if this is going to be a solid or dashed line. Looking at the inequality, we have an equal to bar. That means equal to bar, solid line. So there's a solid line under the inequality, my line is going to be solid. So I connect my points with a solid line, no breaks. Our last step is to shade. Please don't forget to shade. This is a greater than symbol. Greater than means we shade above, shade the sky. Okay, so if I put my person on this line, if they were walking along, they would look something like that. We want to shade the sky. Remember, eating the Y, shade the sky. So we shade the sky, which would be up above his head, and that's up here. Now remember, because this is equal to, the line is a solution now, okay? The line represents answers as well as the shaded area. Both are solutions. For problem number 4, our inequality is y is less than negative 1/5 x plus 3. So our first step is to plot our points just like when they were equations. So my slope is negative 1 over positive 5. My y-intercept is positive 3. Graph the y-intercept first. So to graph that, I start at the origin, I count up 3, and I put my point. After that, I graph my slope, negative 1 over positive 5. So negative 1 means I go down 1. Positive 5 means to the right 5, and put a point. Okay? Also, I can do the opposite. Instead of negative 1, make it positive 1. Instead of positive 5, make it negative 5. So that means I will go up 1 to the left 5. Now, don't just draw a line. Remember, you have to look at the inequality sign. So taking a look at our problem, our inequality sign is a less than sign. There is no equal to bar, and remember, no equal to bar means it's dashed. There has to be breaks in your line. So connect the points. It's still going to be straight, but there's going to be breaks in your line. Like this. Remember, breaks in the line means that the points on the line are not answers. It's just giving you a reference point to figure out where you should shade. So I'm going to draw my person right here along the line. This is a less than symbol, okay? If it's eating the Y, you shade the sky, but it's not. This is actually eating the equation, eating the numbers, okay? When that happens, that means less than, you shade the grass, okay? Shade below their feet. So I need to shade down here. This would be where the grass is. This were like a hill. So remember, the shaded area, all of these are solutions. That's why we shade it. These are all answers for this inequality. The points along the line are not answers. They're kind of a cutoff place. Okay, they're saying, hey, everything below here is an answer. Not here, but below, yes. So all of these points are solutions. At this point, go ahead and pause the video, work on problem number 5, and then come back and check your answer. For problem number 5, our inequality is y is greater than or equal to 5/4 x plus 1. That means our slope is positive 5 over positive 4 or negative 5 over negative 4. Our y-intercept is positive 1. So I graphed the y-intercept first, positive 1. I went up 1. I went positive 5, so up 5, positive 4 to the right 4. I also did the negative 5, negative 4. So I went down 5, left 4. I looked at the inequality sign. It does have the equal to bar, which means I needed to draw a solid line. So my line here is solid. There are no breaks in between, which means the line does contain answers. After that, I needed to look at the shading. Remember, if it's eating the y, shade the sky. So in this case, it is eating y. Okay, y is greater than. So I drew my person down here at the bottom. The sky would be above their heads, so I shaded all of this space above the line, okay? So that means all of these points are solutions for the inequality.